Welcome back, you filthy exiles and or maybe just ARPG players. So this is a bit of a different video. Now you guys probably usually expect Path of Exile content out of me. I'm not actually going to cover anything on Path of Exile in this video. So if you don't like that, up to you. But otherwise, stick around. There's 4 games in particular, like 2 that I'm really, actually 3 that I'm really excited for. And one that I've just realized has sort of been announced as a project code, and I'm not entirely sure what to make of it yet. But anyway, I'm really particular about ARPGs, obviously having spent so many hours in Path of Exile 1 and now 2. And so basically, I wanted to put together a list of other ARPGs that you could look at while we're waiting for content drops for PoE 2 or while we're waiting for the next 3.26 League or the special 1 month event that they've hinted at as of today. So anyway, stay tuned and we're going to go through 4, I don't know, decent looking ARPGs that you could try out in the meantime. You never know, maybe one of them will take. I think the last one on this list is one that I'm the most excited for at this stage though. Okay, so the first one here is Last Epoch Season 2, which is Tombs of the Erased. Now, according to their website, and I'll put a link in the description for this one, basically they're going to be adding Monolith of Fate, I always get that wrong, upgrades, new unique weapons, again, woven echoes, dungeon improvements, overhauls to the Sentinel class, tombs and cemeteries, whatever that means, is coming into the game. So similar to Path of Exile, they have like seasonal endgame content that you can play throughout the game when you get to the end game, that is. So I'm interested to see what that actually looks like. Champion enemies, which I'm not too sure what that is, but we'll have to dig into that a little bit more when we do a little bit more coverage off in the game. Endgame crafting additions. Again, if you don't know about Last Epoch, they have this really cool deterministic crafting system. So it is actually like really strong. I'd rate it as like one of the best crafting systems in, I guess, ARPGs right now, because you can basically just farm up throughout the game and craft almost anything that you could need, and it's quite powerful. And basically it's just like material drops from enemies as you go through the game, and then you use it, and then you have so much so many goes at crafting, and then you basically cap out the crafting, and that's it, the item is bricked, but then you can make further changes to it down the track. So there's some really cool stuff that could come out of that, and obviously they're adding more new endgame bosses. That being said, Last Epoch is, I would put it as one of the better ARPGs out there, and so it is sort of a really good game to play when you get to Season 2, stuff like that. They added dodge roll into the game and things like that to make it more current in the last patch that came out. But that being said, like if you're looking for something outside of Path of Exile or Path of Exile 2, then definitely this is a game worth looking at. It's got a huge player base, a lot of build guides out there. Overall is just a really well put together game with a really consistent community that provides a lot of content for it. But I would rate this as like easily one of my like top 3 to 4 ARPGs out there. So yeah, if you're interested in a bit of a change, even now Last Epoch is out there. You can play it. It's perfectly great as an ARPG. I know there's a lot of hype around Path of Exile too, but Last Epoch is still worth your time. But anyway, this would be my first one that I'd put on this list for something to look out for. I believe this one drops on the 2nd of April, so it's only a few months away, so very soon it comes out, so there isn't too much of a wait for it. Okay, so the next one I actually really didn't know about until I started putting together content for this video, but it's actually called Project Pantheon. Now, I am a little bit skeptical. Well, when I say a little bit, I am a lot bit skeptical about this one because it is from Wolcen Studios. Now, for anyone who knows who Wolcen Studios are, they were a dev entity that basically released the game Wolcen. Now, Wolcen was not that great of a game. Candidly, it had a hundred, like, just enormous amounts of issues over the years, and ultimately the studio decided to can the entire game as of last year and leave it for online only. So there is still a little bit of salt in the community's wounds around the developers. Now, I'm not too sure about this game. They have a bit of flavor text here that basically reads the element of Project Pantheon is a code name for an innovative extra action RPG. I'm not entirely sure what that means. In development by Wolcen Studios, seamlessly blending the high stakes intensity of extraction gameplay with the depth and progression of hack and slash RPG mechanics or action RPG mechanics. So basically, it's like an extraction ARPG, which is a really weird concept. It might be good, it might not be. It's set in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world where diverse mythologies once. So it's all this like standard flavor text, it goes, here you are welcomed by Death himself, who recruits you to restore balance to the Shattered Realms. So basically, it says there's PvPvE combat in the game, whatever that means, and then basically you go do the extraction. So it sort of looks like it's a game very similar to like Tarkov or something like that, but for ARPGs. Look, I'm open to it could be good. I'm not entirely sure. If it's like a Tarkov style ARPG, that could be a very different take on an ARPG. So it's probably something worth looking at least something to keep track of. I believe they're moving into closed beta as well soon as well, so it's something that you could sign up for if you really want to give it a shot. I'm not 100% sold on this until I see a little bit more information come out about this game. I'm not certain, but yeah, I definitely want to put it on this list as something to check out when you get a chance, or if just something a little bit different. I think you can wishlist it now on Steam as well, so you never know, they might have learnt from their previous mistakes and this could actually be a really cool concept and really cool game, or it might not, but that's what early access and closed alphas and everything else are for. Okay, so the next game that I'm going to feature on here, I actually got an email from the devs about this a few days ago, and I didn't even know this was even coming out. But it looks freaking awesome. Graphically, it looks really, like, up to date. But it's called Dragonkin the Banished. So basically, there's going to be 3 playable classes on its release. It moves into, like, early access on the 6th of March. So it's out in about 4 weeks at this stage at an EA level. And I believe they're putting out a demo or something of that nature as well. So you can try it as well, just in demo form. Now, it's PC first and foremost, so you can see in the controls and everything. And I think they're planning to later then release it onto console. But the biggest pull for me on this is the crafting system. The crafting system's nuts. So basically, you have like a little dragon that follows you around. And this is a really rudimentary like explanation of it. But essentially, this dragon can then synergize with your skills and use like this big tree thing. And there was a game that came out a few years ago that used a very similar tree, but it wasn't very good. But in this case, the tree sort of allows you to synergize your skills with the dragon skills, and so it's a combination of the two amalgamated to create your skill crafting system, which is really, really cool. The other thing is you can have all different dragons, and there's like a warrior class, there's a spellcaster class, there's like a tank class as well. It just overall looks like a really, really, really cool game. But yeah, definitely Dragonkin could be worth your time. Whether or not it plays like Path of Exile 2, I have no idea. These Path of Exile 2 is on its own as far as ARPGs go, as well as Path of Exile 1. But that being said, this game could absolutely 100% be a contender in competition with those particular games. Who knows? I think this one's worth checking out. I'm definitely going to check it out and have a bit of a play with it in between things. And you never know, it might be something we consistently play on the channel if it's really good. It does look like a lot of fun. The combat looks really fluid. It looks like a lot of really meaningful combat as well, and a lot of blasting that's evolved, and just, whether or not there's a mapping system or however that progresses, we'll have to find that out the hard way. But yeah, definitely something to put on your list to try out in the ARPG scope of things. Okay, so the last game that I'm going to feature on this list, and the reason why I have my camera on for this, is Titan Quest 2. There we go. So I've been playing this game for many years, and in fact, when I was a broke uni student, I was a huge Titan Quest player, because number one, it's all I could afford at the time at like $10 a pop, and I have bought this on every single device I have ever like been on. The reason why I love this game, like, number one, had like character art that was like the item looked like it was the actual art on your character, everything. Like, it's just amazing. It's aged pretty terribly, the original game, hence number two. So, what's number two about? Basically the same sort of themology, right? It's based in ancient Greece. You get to play as like, a hoplite sort of character. So the really interesting thing about Titan Quest, for those who don't know much about Titan Quest, is there's a dual class system. It's probably very similar to Last Epoch. I wouldn't be surprised if Last Epoch sort of took notes from it. But the dual class kit system is set up so you could like put all your points into one class, or you could put your points across 2 classes, and those classes create a whole new class. So basically you can have like, a Conqueror, for example, is a defense class, and a sword class, for example, or a warrior class. So then you create a Conqueror, or you can have like a Stormweaver or whatever it is, right? It basically changes, and then the skill combinations totally change based on those synergies between the classes. this is exactly how Titan Quest 2 works. Now, in the original build, and I think there was some criticism around the footage, that was like a really early build of the game. And I'll put a link in the description to the video that you can see on screen. But basically, the devs, they make it their mission to essentially go out of their way to mention that this game will not be tedious in any way, shape, or form. To give you an example, if you die, you'll be able to teleport straight back to where you died, so you can just continue and the game will just flow. As far as like combat, every weapon has AoE on it, for example. So, you know, but the AoE scales with the type of weapon. So, for example, daggers have less AoE because they're small daggers. They're meant for jabbing. Spears have bigger AoE. There's skill chaining, all the same stuff with skills. They show like a really simplified down tree, but there's almost like the same sort of built-in gem leveling system that you get out of Path of Exile 1. But basically how it works in Titan Quest is you unlock points and then you can allocate more skill supports based on the amount of points that you allocate to the skill. It's sort of like a take on the original Titan Quest tree system, but with a fair few changes to it. Now, overall, like graphically, the game I think is coming along really well. Like it's in really early build right now, but apparently the early access is set to come out a little bit later this year. From what I understand, it's 2025 release at EA. I actually think this game has all the potential if they put a good endgame system into it and everything else. I think this has a really good potential to eventually become something that could compete against Path of Exile 2 if the devs really want to put the time and effort into it, and I think they might be willing to put the investment into it. Is it going to be better than like Path of Exile 2 or whatever? Who knows? I actually think this game could be absolutely amazing if you don't compare it to everything else that's out there, but just as an ARPG. But then again, they might do some absolutely wild stuff, and they might be the next big dev that puts something out that's really cool. Either way, for me, this is a combination of nostalgia, the UI, everything looks very similar to the original game, but it's like renewed for a 2024, 2025 approach to ARPGs. Graphically, the game looks pretty good, and it's only going to improve with time. And I think that overall the devs seem really passionate about the game, and I'm super excited to get my hands on it when it hits EA because I love Titan Quest 1, and they're still released, or they were releasing expansions for it up to a couple of years ago. So this could be an absolutely monolithic game that'll be worth your time in the end, I believe. Okay, so those are some of the games that I'm actually really keen to look at outside of Path of Exile. The obvious thing is we have like a special league event for Path of Exile 1 that got announced today from GGG. I'll put a link in the description for it. And obviously we'll still be doing build curations and all that sort of stuff for Path of Exile 1 on that basis as well, because we'll have 3.26 hopefully coming out soon. And I am very much still a avid believer that Path of Exile 1 is the greatest ARPG out there. That being said, Path of Exile 2 is also extremely huge. We've got hopefully a big league, or not league, but like economy reset coming with an enormous patch that should be coming out, hopefully with new content and a whole heap of changes to the end game. I am really keen to see where they go with things because right now it's a bit of a mixed bag, and so that needs a lot more on that end game. But that being said, it is in early access, so a lot of things will continue to ebb and flow and change over time, and will hopefully improve a lot. I more or less just want to see axes and swords come into the game right now because I want that melee feel. Gemling Legionnaire is pretty much where I'm at, which, you know, with it being probably the most sort of lucrative class to be able to play anything like Spellcaster or melee or anything like that. But I think the game just needs a lot of, it needs a lot more meat on the bone in the end game right now. And so right now I'm playing Path of Exile 1 on the Pox League while I'm sort of cooling off from Path of Exile 2, but we'll be back to Path of Exile 2 next week anyway on stream. Anyway, if you like this type of video and more varied and variety content, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. Also, let me know in the description below if you want to see me review these games, and you know, or you've got some ARPGs that you want to suggest to me. You know what? I'm sort of varying the channel a little bit these days, so I'm more than happy to have a look at different things and give you my 10 cents worth, what I think about it or whatnot. And I just enjoy playing ARPGs because I think like to understand how ARPGs work, you need to play a lot of them to really get a grasp of them. Anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later and have a good one.